All right, I think everybody's trickling in. I can see, yes, up. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and welcome to our Clean Energy Careers webinar. If you would like to take a quick moment to drop your major or your academic area of interest in the chat, we are super interested in seeing what types of students or young professionals are joining us tonight and who are interested in clean energy. So feel free to drop that in the chat. My name is Jaden Beck, and I'm a senior at Binghamton studying chemistry and environmental studies. And I'm also an Energy Corps intern with NEST. So to give you an idea of where I am at in my job search currently, I recently accepted a full-time job position with Block Power to work on the electrification of the city of Ithaca. So you'll hear a little bit about where we are in our job search as we go along. But on our NEST team is Adam Flint, our Director of Clean Energy Programs, Anna Pertel, our Sustainable Energy Coordinator, and I'm also joined by Eve Marks and Jeremy Jordan, who are the other Energy Corps interns that will be presenting to you tonight. And we also want to take a quick moment to thank our panelists for joining us tonight. We have Ryan, Ellie, Kiana, and Josh. So we are very excited to hear from them in a little bit. Well, let's jump right into it. So for anyone who's unfamiliar with the Network for Sustainable Tomorrow, we are a nonprofit organization located in downtown Binghamton. So our mission is to be a network of community-based programs working towards social, environmental, and economic justice and equity in the greater Binghamton area. And the work that we do aims to catalyze and convene new initiatives and partnerships, and also to do outreach and education to support the growth of a stronger and more resilient Southern tier. So as a clean energy organization, we have multiple programs that are centered around education and outreach, renewable energy technologies, as well as social and environmental justice. So Heat Smart Southern Tier is our primary program, which is a NYSERDA-funded community outreach program that provides information and education on clean heating and cooling technologies in partnership with local communities and municipalities. And then we have Southern Tier Solar Works, which is NEST's solar energy outreach and marketing program. And we're currently working on developing community solar for low to moderate income households. Also, we have Binghamton Community Power, which is a program that's focused on energy education. So we're working to reduce the energy burden and build community empowerment. And you can learn about all of these programs shown here and others just like it at our website, which is nynest.org. And to give a brief overview of what we're going to be discussing tonight, we're first going to talk about the growth that we are seeing in clean energy employment and why this work is so important to a really large variety of causes. And then we're going to transition into sharing a broad scope of the field of clean energy to give you an idea of what jobs in this field might look like. And then we're going to move into our best tips on how to find a job in the field, which includes regional opportunities that may be able to help you jumpstart your career. And then we're going to finish off with our panel and a Q&A with the fantastic clean energy professionals that we have joined with us today. And if you have any questions as we go along, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We can address them as we go, or you can save them for the Q&A at the end.
Hey everyone, what's going on? My name is Jeremy. I'm currently a master's student in sustainable communities here at Binghamton, and I'm also an Energy Corps intern, currently working on my own clean energy job search. So to start us off, we're going to cover the current growth in clean energy careers across the country and in New York. Currently, there are more than 3.2 million Americans employed in the clean energy sector, with that number expected to grow dramatically in the coming years. As you can see in Figure 1, the majority of those jobs are in energy efficiency, with renewable energy and clean vehicle jobs following closely behind. The fastest growing field in clean energy from June 2020 to December 2021 was clean vehicles, with a 55.8% increase in jobs, followed by renewable energy and grid and storage that had around a 20% increase, respectively. New York specifically has been one of the top states for clean energy job growth, with over 165,000 clean energy jobs currently. And with new policies and regulations in New York leading the way towards more clean energy jobs, is expected to be an estimated over 400,000 jobs available by 2050 in New York, with growth coming every year. So Figure 3 on the bottom right shows that New York's clean energy job growth is currently in line with the national average. And overall, it's just a great time to get into the clean energy job field. So now that we know about the current status of clean energy jobs and the expected growth in the coming years, we should speak about what makes clean energy careers so important. Energy is a modern human right and a basic human need, making clean energy careers essential for the health of our planet and our communities. The most important reasons to pursue a clean energy career fall under the 3 E's, which are environment, equity, and economy. It's vital that people get involved in clean energy careers if they are motivated by mitigating climate change, removing the barriers to accessing clean and secure energy, and shaping our future policies and economy. So you might be wondering what kind of clean energy jobs are available and what are they? Well, clean energy is an interdisciplinary field of roles providing sales, research, community building, engineering, policy, or anything related to renewable energy and sustainability. There's an extremely large variety of clean energy jobs available split into these different sectors, and this word cloud right here helps to express the different kinds of job titles you'll see in the clean energy industry. So we wanted to cover 4 of the main fields a clean energy professional might find themselves in, which are sales and finance, green buildings and infrastructure, research and technology, and policy planning and consulting. I also just wanted to clarify that clean energy is a very vast field with many different types of careers available. So if you don't see yourself fitting into one of these 4 categories, don't feel limited by them. These are just the 4 main categories we want to cover. And the first one is sales and finance, which is going to involve selling renewable energy products or services to customers, representing the energy company, and developing and overseeing financial strategies. And moving on from that, we have the green buildings and infrastructure, which involve making buildings greener and more energy efficient through consulting, engineering, and installation. After that, we have research and technology, which is going to involve the study and development of renewable energy technologies, analysis and energy systems, policies, markets, and workforces. And then finally, we have policy planning and consulting, which will involve providing advice and support in all matters relating to the implementation of clean energy through community development, shaping policy, and assessing environmental impact.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Anna and I'm the sustainability coordinator with Nest. And in terms of where I am in my clean energy job search, I will be graduating from Binghamton this spring with a degree in biology and environmental science. So I'm still looking for a job that can fit both of those as well as clean energy. And I also wanted to just piggyback off of what Jeremy was just talking about. If you wanted to hear more about more specific jobs, in the clean energy space, we had a webinar last year around this time that you can find on our website where we go more into what some specific types of jobs are. So you can find that on our website, which we will put in the chat. So now hopefully we've convinced you that a clean energy career is a good path for you. So now we want to give some tangible tips for actually getting started on a job search. So I'm going to be sharing some great resources for you to check out that are specific to clean energy. And even if you're not somebody who's looking to get a job right now, maybe you're an underclassman who's not going to be graduating soon, or if you just have other plans for the near future, it's still great to check these out just to get an idea of what's out there and maybe try some preliminary networking. So we're going to be sharing a lot of links. So if you want to be able to click on them, we're going to be dropping a link to a Google Doc in the chat in just a second with all the information in one place. So if you want to follow along with all the links, feel free to click on that. And then also we'll be sending this out afterwards, so you'll have all these links in one place, easily accessible. So the first job searching resource we wanted to share is an online platform called DayAway. So their website is made specifically for young people who are trying to enter the clean energy field, as you can see by their slogan, which is networking tomorrow's energy professionals. So they have a huge database of entry-level renewable energy jobs, which is perfect for recent college grads because they're entry-level, and you can filter them by your degree and major. You can also sign up for their weekly newsletter, which will send you new job postings for every week, and they can be specifically tailored to you based on your degree type. And then another great opportunity through DayAway is called Zoomin, which you can see on the right. So this is basically a networking platform for people who are new or recently entered the clean energy field. So it's kind of similar to Mentor Match if you've ever done that through Binghamton, but it's more peer-to-peer because most of the people in there are either looking for jobs currently or have recently entered the clean energy field in their profession. So you do have to sign up for it, but it's completely free and you should get accepted within a couple days. And then they have lists of people that you can contact through LinkedIn, which you can sort by industry, degree, and major. And you can also see where they're located as well. So for example, if you're interested in talking to someone from Tesla, you could search that and find someone to connect with and message them on LinkedIn. Or for another example, if you're a bio major like me and you want to know what kinds of jobs someone with a biology degree could get in clean energy, you can filter just the bio majors and then look on those people's LinkedIn pages to learn about the kinds of jobs and companies out there and what kinds of experiences people have. Okay, so the next resource we have is called Climate Base, which is another job board essentially, but it is more broad for all climate related jobs. And you can also narrow it down to energy, as you can see in the top right there. If you just choose which sector is of most interest to you, you can select energy. You can also search by job keyword and by location. And they also have a weekly newsletter, which has general world climate news, as well as job postings. And they also occasionally have webinars called Climate Base Live, where they bring in companies that are actively hiring to give a little spiel about what they do. And then they have breakout rooms for people to ask questions and to network. So this is great if you're like actively looking for a job and you want to actually hear about companies that are hiring. And often they have companies that are hiring for like several different positions. So there will be a lot of openings. So I actually went to one of these a couple of weeks ago, which was for climate tech companies. And it was very cool. There was a company working on electrified aircraft, one working on technology to make the grid clean 24/7. So it's really cool just to hear kind of what's going on out there in the field as well. And then another thing you can do on Climate Base is generate a personal profile for curated job suggestions for you. So next we have the Green Jobs List, which is also another job board. This one comes out once a month, so you can subscribe to their newsletter to get the most updated one in your inbox, or just find them on LinkedIn. And it has hundreds of jobs, which they sort by location, and it also includes remote and international jobs. And there's just an example on the right there that you can see there's a lot of job openings listed for New York, and especially New York City. So if you're looking to stay in state, this might be a good option for you to look at. And then finally, we just wanted to share some additional job boards that might be useful to you. So Climate Change Jobs is just a standard climate change job board. Young Professionals in Energy includes jobs in energy that are not renewable energy necessarily, but you can filter it by renewable energy. And then their website might be cool to check out too. And they have chapters all over the world. And then the Solar Energy Industries Association is obviously specific to solar industry. And you can also sign up for alerts for specific searches on that website. And finally, there are jobs available through NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. They're basically in charge of promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency in New York State. So NEST actually does a lot of work with NYSERDA, and they have some great programs to help clean energy become more affordable and accessible in the state. So you can subscribe to their weekly job postings email list, and they also have some great opportunities for fellowships and internships that you can check out. So these are just some of the examples of the job boards out there that we've looked at and that we wanted to suggest to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Eve Marks. I'm another Energy Corps intern at NEST, and I'm a senior at Binghamton University, double majoring in environmental science and PPL, politics, philosophy, law, with a human rights minor. And next year I will be working as an environmental planner on Long Island. So I wanted to talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So this is an amazing resource that can really help you kickstart your career search. So if you don't have a LinkedIn profile yet, or you haven't updated in a while, I really suggest you do that as soon as possible. So in terms of job search or internship search, You can put in parameters such as entry level, full-time, location, remote, or in-person work, and search for jobs that way. But you could also type in a company name and see all of their open positions as well. LinkedIn is also a great place to start networking. So when I was first trying to decide what I wanted to do, I tried to do as many informational interviews as possible. So for those of you who don't know, informational interviews are conversations where you're the ones asking the questions. So this is a great way to learn about someone's career and gain insight into the job responsibility of those roles. So I really suggest that you do as many informational interviews as possible. So I started by going on the Binghamton University page and then clicking on people and searching for environmental or sustainability. So I looked through everyone's jobs and chose people that looked interesting and just reached out to them asking for a quick phone call. A lot of people didn't answer, but a lot of people also did. So don't be discouraged if you don't get a response right away. And if you send enough messages, you're bound to get a response. Aside from that, LinkedIn's also a great place to follow people you find inspiring or companies you find inspiring and really just keep up to date on what's going on in the field. So I follow NYSERDA on LinkedIn, I follow the Nature Conservancy and a lot of different people in this space. And it's really helped me just kind of keep up to date and be part of that conversation. So now we're going to go on to some regional opportunities in clean energy in the Southern Tier specifically. So New Energy New York, or NENY, is an initiative led by Binghamton University that is establishing a network of industry, academic, nonprofit, and government organizations to grow a competitive battery development and manufacturing hub in Binghamton, New York. So NENY Startup Experience, there's a paid internship, which I suggest you all check out. So this combines innovation, entrepreneurship, and research and development in clean energy and sustainability, and applications are now open for summer 2023. So if you have a STEM background, a marketing background, a business background, this is a great opportunity for you. So this link is in the document that we shared. So check it out. Now I'll talk about the NEST internship. So if you or anyone you know is interested in being an Energy Corps intern, please feel free to apply to on our website for summer or fall. This link will be in the chat. And this is a really great opportunity to gain real experience in the clean energy space as an undergraduate student. So you'll gain experience and knowledge in things like renewable energy, public policy, outreach, community organizing, graphic design, administration, marketing, and many other skills. So we really do a lot of things, and we're gaining really awesome experience in this field. And for me personally, it helped me kind of decide what I wanted to do after I graduated, and also introduced me to a lot of awesome people in this space that provided great networking opportunities. So now I'm going to pass it to Adam, our director, to talk more about NEST.
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate it, Eve. And just want to congratulate our team for putting this together. I had zero to do with any of the setup of this. And so I'm actually really thrilled about that, because as all of you know, including past interns, my schedule tends to be a bit harried, and they really did a fine job, as you're starting to see. So yeah, I just wanted to actually say a few more things about the internship and some other career stuff that might interest you. We've had now more than 120 interns over almost a decade that we've hosted. And I think one thing to emphasize about the Energy Corps program is it's really for any discipline. You know, a lot of people in clean energy tend to come out of technical fields such as engineering or the natural sciences. They tend to come out of finance and business. And it's not as easy for the social science and humanities people necessarily to find a track into their career. But the reality is that I had zero training in my field. I'm a sociologist by training. I was in higher education before I went into this field. And really, the thing they always say about liberal arts, learning how to learn. Once you master one subject, you learn how to master other subjects. Applied. But what I didn't have when I was an undergraduate was this sort of internship experience. I think now it's much more understood that that's absolutely essential. And in addition to the substantive things people learn in our internship around clean energy solutions, the technologies, the incentives, and basically how to go about shepherding people through the process. It's also, in a lot of ways, like any other job today in the 21st century, where you're online a lot of the time, you're doing stuff in person, there's certain kinds of software that you use, et cetera. So I want to particularly encourage people in the social sciences and humanities, and I'm not dissing the others, it's just the others have somewhat more concrete pathways to explore this career. Don't assume it's not for you. There's just so much out there. So in addition to checking out our internship page, which also has testimonials from almost all of our past interns, I did want to mention two quick things. One is that on the 27th in the fall, for those of you who are not graduating, at the DoubleTree, we're going to be hosting a Clean Energy Careers Summit and Job Fair. And this is going to be an opportunity for job seekers to talk to people who have jobs in the area to see if they're suited for those. And the summit is also going to be a very stimulating conversation about the different opportunities and challenges in our area. And since our alumni left here, even in the case of Eleanor, who's the most recent staff member, a lot of new things have happened. We have a battery gigafactory that's already producing, and we also are going to have a solar panel factory very shortly, among other things. Last word is that this summit is part of a series of summits that's organized statewide by the Clean Energy Careers Summits. That's cleanenergycareersny.org. And there's going to be summits coming up in Brooklyn, Sullivan County, and Kingston, and we're hoping to have them across the state within a year. So with that, I'm going to introduce Jess from the Insulation Man. Jess is one of our veteran installer partners, as we call them. So with our education programs, we competitively select high quality installers that are the ones that actually do the assessments and the installations. Jess is joining us representing the Insulation Man. She'll also say a few words about the installer partners in general. So Jess, over to you.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jess and I work with the Insulation Man. We've been working with Nest, or particularly me, since 2020 when we started doing the webinars for the public. Like Adam, I had no experience when I came into this field. My background is actually, I have a medical degree and I have an IT degree, and neither field were really checking any of the boxes for me. So when I came over to construction, I had no idea what I was actually walking into. None of my experience had ever prepared me for this. And it has done a lot to really open my eyes and realize that there are jobs out there where I can utilize both of my previous educations and take it further into a field that really needs people educated in both. We do insulation. We focus on really the building envelope, which is the structures that make up a building, whether it be a house or a commercial building. We have project managers. They are the ones to come out, and originally they will look at the house. They'll come up with a list of recommendations of areas where improvements need to be made. And they head up the project from start to finish. We have our install crew who they go out and they do the installation for whatever needs to be done. And then for our company, there's my position, which I do a lot of running the day-to-day in the office and making sure that everything is taken care of. But a lot of what I do is intaking people coming through our company from state-funded incentive programs to help out low to moderate income people. It's my job to get these projects started, to get the information that we're going to need to set up the appointments. Right now, I'm also currently doing scheduling, but my job in particular is kind of a mixed bag. For anybody looking at going into clean energy, or even if you're not sure at this point, I would also recommend that you try to, you give it a chance. You may find that it can deal with everything that you are wanting in your career, depending on what it is you actually want to do. There really is positions for everything, as long as you know where to look and how to use the education.
All right, so as we can see, kind of one of the best ways to learn if a clean energy career is right for you is to talk with the people that are currently in the field and to hear about their experiences, which is why we are super, super excited to have our panelists with us today. So Kiana, Josh, Ryan, and Eleanor, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing this right now so we can all see our cameras. Let me fix this. Okay. So if we could start with everybody giving us a brief introduction. We'll start with Kiana, go to Josh, Ryan, and then Eleanor. Give me your name, your current position, a little bit about your educational background, and in a brief way, why you were interested in a career in sustainability or energy or the environment.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be part of the panel tonight. My name is Kiana Julian. I am a program associate for NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, back in New York City. I did go to Binghamton from 2012 to 2016. And I am also Sustainable Communities Master's Program from 2018. I went to Binghamton trying to do doctor, lawyer, engineer. You got to choose one. I did pre-med. The classes are okay. Science is a great field, but my roommate, who knew I was into recycling and composting and stuff like that, she told me, you got to take this class with a professor named Dick Andrus, right? And she knew that I'd probably get in, and I did for my second semester, and then things started to click. So I took more classes then, and then I met George Holmesy, was teaching sustainability classes, and then things really started to click then. And I kind of, biology is great, but working outside with the bees and the birds and nature, that was really where I wanted to be, and not in the lab. I still think medicine's great, nothing against it, but I definitely felt that I loved the challenge that I was getting from environmental classes, especially environmental ethics, policy, and solution-based planning. So I did sustainability planning for most of my undergrad, and sustainable communities now. So that's my background.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Josh?
Thanks, Jaden. Kiana actually set me up pretty well because I started at Binghamton in the doctor, lawyer, engineer path on the lawyer side, and had a friend who also noticed that I was green and cared about our planet and said, oh, you should take some environmental studies classes. And then I thought those two things could go together. There is a whole swath of things you can do as an environmental lawyer or environmental advocate, but my post-grad took me a little astray from that, and I figured out that I wanted some of those things and not the entire legal rigmarole that goes with that. So I graduated with my PPL and environmental degrees. I did a little bit of work, including at STSW, one of NEST's solar programs, for a year, and then decided to go back to grad school to specifically focus on energy policy, because it really mattered. It was massively growing, and I wanted to be part of that solution using a lot of those same skills that I found along the way.
Sounds great. Yep. And Ryan, tell us a little about your path.
Hey all, my name is Ryan Madden. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm currently the sustainability organizer with the Long Island Progressive Coalition, which is a multi-issue social justice nonprofit based on Long Island. And I also am a graduate of Binghamton. I graduated in 2013 and was an intern for what was then called the Energy Leadership Program through Cornell Cooperative Extension with Mr. Flint, who I still have the privilege of working with on a very regular basis. And I started getting interested in climate and environmental issues in high school. My AP science class really started connecting the dots for me, and that interest carried over as I was studying political science and environmental science at BU, where yeah, just really started to see how, you know, climate change and clean energy issues are really at the intersection of like the breadth of everything in society, from like electrons to colonialism. And I, yeah, just carried that with me and had the pleasure. I know we'll get to the kind of what was your exact path in this way, but it definitely in a very deeply meaningful way started with my internship here.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And Ellie, give us the final little intro.
Thanks, Jaden, and thanks, guys. Happy to be here. Nice to see everybody. My name is Ellie Colton. I'm the sustainability coordinator at Salas O'Brien, which is an engineering firm based in Chicago right now. I also went to Binghamton. I did my BA in environmental policy, so I was one of those converted would-be lawyers. And then I got my master's in sustainability, and I actually graduated last May, so coming up on a year. It's been, you know, an interesting time since then. My interest in sustainability really came from a deep-seated impending sense of doom. You know, I grew up with the whole every single season there's a new record set for heat and cold and extreme weather and all of that. So I kind of went from the idea of like, okay, let me fly down to the rainforest and chain myself to a tree to like, all right, I'm going to go be a lawyer and try to do this to, oh shoot, if I'm a lawyer to make any money, I'm going to have to fight for the side that I don't want to be on, to working in a clean energy nonprofit to now I'm sort of in the corporate world. So I've kind of been a little bit all over the map with it so far. But I think it's an issue that touches every single person on this planet in one way or another, whether we know it or not. And there's a lot of really cool and interesting pathways to go with it, especially career-wise. So that's what kind of drew me to it. So.
Awesome. That's actually a perfect segue. So it sounds like you all had a little bit of a path personally that drew you towards your interest in sustainability and energy, but I really want to know about your career path out of college. I think that's the number one thing that people are most confused about. So let's start with, how about we go back to Ellie? What led you to your current job, and what job search methods did you use?
Good question. So what led me to my current job was actually, I was in the same position as you guys. I was working at Nest, and I got the privilege to go to NYGO in Albany, and I had the semester before done a project for the DOE for a community geothermal system. So I was already kind of narrowing my way into what I was interested in regarding clean energy, and I met my current employers there who were presenting on a kind of similar project that they had completed. So we got to talking, chit-chatting, and it turned out that there was an opportunity in Chicago, and after a couple interviews, I was lucky enough to get that position. So for me, it's not really the pathway that most people find themselves on. But I would say also alongside of that, I was, you know, going through the LinkedIn posts, and I was asking around about, you know, should I go back to Rochester where I'm from and try to do a clean energy thing there, or should I stay with Nest, or all of these things. So all those questions went through my head as well. The updating of the resume and the writing of the cover letters and all of that. And I guess the big thing that I got from that was like putting yourself out there, whether you're actively looking for a job, or if you're in a position that you like, or if you're thinking about looking for a job, going and meeting people who have similar interests as you is one of the absolute most valuable things that you can do. Making those connections, regardless of what your goal is going to only help you in the long run.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Who wants to take it next? Maybe we can go back to Kiana and tell us a little about your path out of college.
Sure. So I did graduate planning on having 3 months of the summer to myself. Went to school for 22 years. It just, you need a little short break. So after that, I immediately got to work. I ended up doing lead green associate exam because I felt that that would give me a leg up a little bit in my job search. I did the same LinkedIn, Google, learning the little ways you can type it into Google to get exactly what you want. And I spent a lot of time at the library trying to figure out how to write a cover letter. And looking back on that, that was kind of maybe a waste of time because what I needed to do was just start applying. So I was actually looking for a job. If you subtract the 3 months I just discussed, 6 months to kind of just put my name out there. As Ellie was saying, you just gotta get out there. And I ended up applying for a few jobs. Totally didn't do the interviews right. I needed to learn how to captivate the skills I've learned. And a lot of that I used from my Energy Corps internship with Nest, but back then it was Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. But I used a lot of what I've learned at that time to market myself. And then I ended up applying, I ended up applying to New York City Housing Authority, which is a very big agency. It's the largest landlord in North America. And I kind of went for a sustainability position and did not end up getting it. I did get an informational interview from the VP of the Sustainability and Energy. That was helpful, but what actually helped me was going to that interview, and someone in that interview said, you know, you are good enough as a temp to kind of help me with the work I'm doing anyway. And that's kind of how I got onboarded at New York City Housing Authority. And then 3 months later, as a temp, I actually, a position opened up in the energy side. And since I've been working there on the weatherization assistance program for so long, or for 3 months, I should say, I applied, didn't get that job either. But I ended up getting the job because the two people they kind of did want didn't end up taking the job, and then I was on call for it to be next. So that's actually how I ended up getting my job, and that's basically my advice: is just kind of get your name out there. Don't waste time in a library trying to figure out how to write a cover letter. Kind of just keep scrolling as much as possible and just apply. Just make sure that your words are right, and market yourself so that your resume can be picked up by ATSs. I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but kind of go for the job and type in the keywords. But we'll discuss that later. But.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for giving us this perspective that it's not always going to be linear, that there might be some bumps in the road, but you have to just find the opportunities and take advantage of them when you're like situated correctly. I think that's really great. So how about we go to Ryan? Tell us a little bit about your path.
Sure. Well, I had a good fortune of staying the summer after I graduated in Binghamton to do be a part of the Energy Leadership Program with Adam, but get paid for it. And that was really great because it was good to just like stay there and like be at it longer because I got so much out of the program, but also have some time over the summer to kind of like stay involved, but then work on my resume, work on my cover letter, start looking at those job list searches, start applying to jobs, putting my name out there. And then after I got home, just to have some work to do, I wound up applying for like a sales position at an energy service company, which I would not recommend. But it was just a way to, again, stay involved, do something in the clean energy sector, or so I thought. And again, just have something on my resume, continue at it. I wound up joining a youth delegation to a United Nations climate change conference at the end of November, in November of 2013, which didn't necessarily lead to a job, but was like really formative. And I mean, building relationships, learning more opportunities about how people, from policy to legal to advocacy, and engage in different, climate and clean energy work. So then, mostly through actually a relationship with a Binghamton alum, found myself at a waste management company that very specifically recycled mercury in the dental industry. Again, jobs, and was there for about a year before there was just no longer a good fit. And then I did an unpaid internship at a clean energy thing. And then I worked for 2 weeks in the wardrobe department for a concert tour for Madonna, as everyone does before finding their position, their full-time position, where kind of right time, right place, the Long Island Progressive Coalition was hiring to work on the same Green Jobs, Green New York energy efficiency program that I had been working on as an intern at Binghamton. And so I had exactly the right skill set. But the way I found my way to that dental recycling job, regardless of how it went, and to ultimately the Long Island Progressive Coalition, was mostly investing in networking and informational interviews to then engage with those people to ask them who else I should be speaking to. So I basically built like a spider diagram of like people and their relationships, and then followed up with all of them, learn more. And someone wound up thinking about me through our conversations and sent me the job application for the Long Island Progressive Coalition and flagged my name for them, on top of having, you know, the experience. But like, I probably did a 60-40, 70-30 of mostly meeting with people and doing informational interviews to get my name out there, learn about connections, follow up, and like 30% just like applying to a lot of things online where you could like not hear back from a place for like 9 months. So it's around what balance works for you and exactly what kind of sector and field you were working in. I was very much focused on like social justice and like organizing within climate and energy spaces, which makes it a little bit more difficult in some ways. But I found that worked well for me. And I've been at the Long Island Progressive Coalition for 7.5 years. So most of my career. So it was a good pathway for me in that regard.
Awesome. And last but not least, Josh, tell us your little path and what job search methods you use as well.
Yes. So graduating from Binghamton in 2015, I decided to go straight to grad school. I did my first year of law school, which for academic, health, and financial reasons came to kind of an abrupt end after that first year. Just wasn't the right fit. I wasn't doing super well, but it did land me a summer internship in DC doing energy policy work, which I figured out I absolutely loved. The difficulty of that is with a small bag of skills, a bachelor's degree, and a dream, you don't necessarily get a job on Capitol Hill, I found, or I couldn't wait long enough. The rent in the place I was in came due before I found a place, but I started applying back home with that same idea of now I know what I want to do. I just have to find a way to do it. That brought me to SDSW in one of the staff positions. I got to do that for about a year and really kind of craft those chops, work on more policy, work on all the various skills that come as being part of the staff and working with the interns. That took me to deciding to get a master's degree to kind of cap off and really hone in on some of those extra skills for a year. During that, I got to do research on offshore wind. I got to work at the Vermont State Capitol, a lot of just kind of filling my toolkit with those various things. Out of grad school, I got into a graduate development program with Avangrid, which is the parent company of NYSEG. A lot of clean energy companies, utilities, have taken on this 2-year management role for young professionals because they recognize they have a dearth of young talent across the industry. So I recommend, if people are looking for those, to think of a big company or look at the major players in markets and see if they have a graduate training program for 2 years, because I got to rotate around a couple different departments, use the skills I had, learn a lot more about the sector, and figure out where my grouping of experiences and interests lined up. That's taken me to my current role, which is with the U.S. Strategy Department for National Grid. And I've gotten to take all of that policy and renewable energy background into trying to make an old school utility actually a partner in the energy transition instead of kicking and screaming, which is a descriptor I've used for other utilities, but not the one that I work at now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm really glad that we got to hear all of your different paths. I think it's really helpful to hear some of those job search tips that you used, but also that you ended up in very different spots. So I think that one thing that I'm most curious, as I had just gone through my job search process, is knowing, and I open this question to the entire panel, we don't have to do each person in a row, but which part of the job search process did you find most difficult? I think it kind of varies for each person. And do you have any tips on how to successfully navigate those really big challenges that you face?
I can take a swing at that one. I would say it was that fresh out of college first step kind of. I have a 4-year degree, a little bit of practical experience, mostly academic experience, but every quote unquote entry level job wants you to have 3 years of experience. And I know a lot about, or rather, I know a little bit about a lot, not a lot about anything specifically. So what do I do with that? And I found in my job search that having some of this internship work or just doing a bit of in-depth independent research, listening to podcasts, or just getting tapped into the industry really impresses people. If you happen to get in the door through all of that networking, that's super important. Showing that you've done that extra, call it 5 hours of work into the sector, into the company you're sitting in front of, makes a huge difference that I didn't know right away. I thought that I had enough with my bachelor's and a little bit of extra work, but that drill down gets you kind of over the hump of being like everybody else in a sea of applications.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually a really good segue, I think, into our next question, which is exactly what you just said. You kind of can find yourself in a sea of applications. And I think once you do the hard work to network, write a really good cover letter, whatever it is, you then find yourself in that job interview. So can anyone talk about how they maybe set themselves apart from others during the job interview process, or what tips they used as they were interviewing to make sure that they came across as the best candidate?
I could take part of that. And it's taking a little bit of what Josh said of like what level is enough, but making yourself memorable and being informed and persistent will help you. Where if you're applying to something and you're really interested in it, like go find them on LinkedIn, shoot them an email if their email is available, and introduce yourself. And kind of casting a wide net in a very intentional way can be great, because that can also help your name get out there. And somebody is having a conversation, and if a student emailed me and said, oh, I saw a post that you wrote or something on LinkedIn and I found it really interesting, because I'm going to remember that person regardless of if they're actually applying for something. And then following up also, if you are actually applying, making sure that you send a thank you email, or, do connect with them on LinkedIn or something like that. Just make sure that your name pops up more than just the one time on your application with your resume and cover letter. Because if there's 50 applications, but 3 people follow up, those are the 3 that are going to stick in my mind. So don't actually be annoying, but be persistent,
Absolutely.
I was going to say the same thing. He's now, you see, the person who was in the interview, who brought me on as a temp, he's now my director. So, which is great, because now he knows he's the one who brought me on and brought me some of the knowledge that I have now. But he recently told me that out of all those interviews, I was the only one who could answer the tough question of my VP, who's the one who told me that I needed some more time to kind of understand the industry. But she had asked me, what is the 3 things you need for project management? And because I had spent so much time in the library and I was researching all of this, I have it written right here on my my wall on a card. It says cost, quality, and time. Not of all the candidates, I was the only one who knew it because I spent the time. Like, well, Josh had said definitely before, it's just like kind of doing the work on your downtime when you're looking for a job. Is just knowing all these different things that might not pop up. So that was interesting for me to know. And then I also, like Ellie was saying, like I did reach out back for a thank you note. I ended up getting that informational interview, and walking out, I saw my deputy, my now deputy, said, thank you. I realized you were in my interview, and he's the one who called me back. So just don't be annoying. Don't be a stalker either. And then just try to be as memorable as you can by just figuring out ways that you can stick out, like knowing what that equation is for project management.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important too, when you're kind of, going into the job interview process, you have to know exactly, like Kiana said, what the skills are that they're looking for in each job field. So if you could talk a little bit about, I know many of you mentioned in your kind of pathway out of college that you had a really specific skill set that helped you nail your full-time job. So if you could talk to what type of skill set is essential in your current position, and also maybe what experiences a Binghamton student could do in terms of classes, activities, or internships that would help them secure those same types of skills.
So I work in a strategy team that is primarily made up of people who have management consulting experience. Our engineers are both. So I am very much the odd one out with my regulatory policy background, but that's been an asset to me. And that's something that I started getting from classes I took in Binghamton. Really kicked off between getting the internship experience in DC, where I was researching and able to talk confidently about net metering in my interview with Nest. That set me apart. So having something that this industry needs, mine was policy experience, has brought me into some roles where I was really transparent. I didn't know, let's say, the finance mechanics of people in the room. I still abhor Excel, even though I use it every now and again, but like showing that value and building it up through some internship experience, always being able to play back to that best skill has gotten me into some roles where I came at it from a different approach, and I had to do a lot of learning to fill around the edges. But the policy background, starting with like environmental 230 at Binghamton, is kind of my through line throughout.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else want to talk a little bit about the core skill set that they need for their job currently? Otherwise, I can move on to another question.
Ellie, you can go.
Okay, I just want to emphasize the importance of like communicating regardless of what job you're in. So being able to write an email and like schedule a meeting and call somebody on the phone and get the information that you need and communicate what it is that you need to tell them. I find that a lot of the, miscommunications, but a lot of the difficulties that come across, I don't have a million meetings a day anymore, but if it can be done in a 2-minute meeting, fantastic. If it can be done in an email, even better. If it can be a Teams message, great. But being able to articulate clearly and quickly about what it is that you're trying to do is super, super important wherever you go. And I was actually looking for jobs in the COVID times, which was kind of weird. And I had just, a lot of my internships, my summer internships started right as COVID was hitting. And then I kind of played through until I graduated in 2022. So I met some amazing people only over Zoom ever, or only over the phone ever. And then I got to meet some people in person too. So being able to represent yourself well no matter what medium you're on, I think is super important. And it can be something like go practice your, I kind of did a little, hey, my name's Ellie. This is my background. This is my role before even this meeting. So it sounds silly, whatever you got to do to make sure that you know what you're coming into a meeting representing yourself as, and then going forth and showing that is valuable.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that you can really hone on your own personal time if you really focus your energy on making sure that your communication is super clear. Kiana, did you want to add anything else to that?
Sure. I mean, I definitely was going to say the communication thing is completely correct. I'm working with adults now who really don't know. I guess it wasn't something that they've had to do a lot since maybe the computer's new to them, but it's just a lot of things of like translating what they need from me as quickly as possible. So that's very and then how I speak to people. There's a range of people I speak to every day. I need to know exactly how to communicate with them on and the language I use and how I best serve what's the word? How I can best help them with their agenda and them helping with me with my agenda. But I was going to speak more to the courses at Binghamton that I took that I think helped. Besides the internship, public speaking and doing a lot more presentations. I'm more of a comfortable person doing something like this kind of style of presenting information. And so I made sure that if I had the choice between doing a research role or a presenting role, I made sure that I would stick to doing more presenting roles, presenting projects, because that's something I know that I can succeed in. And so I kind of wanted to hone on that skill as much as possible. So a lot of courses that were data or analytical or statistics, I just knew that I wasn't gonna excel there. I took those courses, but I made sure that there was something that I could do that was speaking, I would. And that was actually more in a lot of the planning classes I took. Planning and GIS. Professor Holmesy was very adamant about taking GIS courses, and I did use that skill in my interview, as well as Excel. I use Excel every single day. So if you can get more Excel and knowledgeable about that stuff, that's truly something that you will use every single day. But presenting I did with Southern Tier Solar Works when we went to City Hall, and I had to present the financials of community solar and getting solar panels on people's houses. And then I made web pages, which was really cool. So working around the computer a lot.
Definitely. Thank you. So one thing that I also think is really important, I mean, you all had a little bit of an internship experience working with the nonprofit, which was Nest at a time, but I feel like we've also kind of branched out a bit. And one of the things that as a student, you don't really get to think about are the advantages and disadvantages of working within the different areas of, I guess, jobs. So whether that's private, nonprofit, or government. So I would love to hear a little bit about that and what some of your experiences have been in those different sectors of work. I think we have representation from each.
So I've said about my time with Nest, SDSW, being in a nonprofit and being a relatively small team to do a lot means that if there's something you want to learn, if there's something you want to do, you have pretty much immediate access and permission to go learn it and do it, which is phenomenal, especially as a young professional, being able to say, I planned a project from start to end, it was mine, or I did a presentation that led to this many sales. That was really awesome early experience. And then working as a young professional in a big private sector company, trying to tailor that same enthusiasm through a chain of command and a slow moving ship is something that really ground my gears for a while, but it was a matter of working on some of those communication and persuasion skills that have been brought up already on the panel, of knowing what the person across from you wants, what they're worried about, when you bring up a big change or you want to take on more exposure, experience. It's been kind of that was the biggest challenge for me moving into the private sector. But certainly in terms of resources, there are more people to do what needs to be done than you can imagine, and it's more about navigating and getting the right people on a call and agreeing with you, I've found throughout the private sector. But that's primarily been working within a bigger company.
Definitely. Anybody else want to talk a little bit about what they've experienced in different areas? I don't even like in their jobs.
Yeah, I'm happy to share some thoughts. I think, and it's easy for me to say this now. I'm like trying to like bring back 10 years ago me. Is that it's hard to know, but to the degree that you can discern like what you're trying to get out of something goes a long way. And in some ways, you can't do that until you just put yourself out there and start to know how things work and get the experience and kind of be inside of a place or be relating to a place, an institution, an organization, in order for know like what you like, what you don't like, what's frustrating, what's exciting to you. But for example, like there are a lot of environmental nonprofits that like are not great and are exploitative. There are like utilities that are like working to undermine our climate law. There are like government agencies that are like deeply frustrating to work with and like don't move the money that they have. So it's really a process of like figuring out for yourself, okay, what battle do I want to fight and why do I want to fight that battle? Because it's going to be a struggle anywhere you are. And that's not to deter you, but to like just set you up for, I think, some expectations around navigating some of these things. So I know in my experience, like I work for a very small, grassroots nonprofit organization, which is like small, which means like we can easily move on things in some ways. There's less like decision making, like less, there's like just like a smaller infrastructure, but we also have less resources. We get asked to do too many things and get spread too thin. We're often, really trying to galvanize like ourselves against forces that are like much more powerful than us. And that comes with its own set of frustrations and limitations. So since it's been my most like formative years, I've mostly been in oppositional relationship to some other places, so can't speak to, but I alluded to some of the dynamics and some of those other entities. So I mean, as best as you can, like knowing what you are trying to go into something with and just like listening to yourself as you're like going through that, because again, you have no idea, you won't have an idea until you're in it, but you can, I think, you're here specifically on this webinar because you're interested in something and you want to do something. And so, checking in with yourself about like why and how, and being open to consistently doing that as you navigate different experiences.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really glad that you mentioned kind of the fact that across those different types of sectors, you're going to just encounter work culture. And that's a really big part of where you decide that you want to end up, even if you think you want to be working for a nonprofit. If the culture is not right, it's not the right place for you. So I would like to do one last question before we open it up to a Q&A with the audience, which is, I mean, you go to college, you pick your major, you enter the world of jobs. There's endless jobs that you could pick. Why is this topic important for this audience to pursue as a career out of all of the options that they have? I liked that Ellie mentioned at the beginning, there is kind of this impending doom, but is there any other reason why people should pick clean energy, sustainability, and the environment?
If you guys don't mind me going first. I don't know where I picked up the quote, but I always thought about how I felt exhausted, that it is, I have this thing that I want to do, this goal that I want to do better. My altruism is like yay high, and I just want to make sure I leave for the generation behind me everything that I was given. And I don't know where I picked up the quote, but it was like, we need to have 100% of the population doing 1% of the work instead of 1% of the population doing 100% of the work. And because I don't know if anybody's like me, I like trivia, I like challenges, I like finding solutions. And that is the quote that I kind of bring with me every single day. And just thinking like, how can I make it so that it's easier for 100% of our population to do what's best for us and for people we won't ever meet. So clean energy is something that is challenging, but it has such a big realm into figuring out different ways we can do what I just said. Whether that be technology based, if you're a mathematician or statistician, that's something that can come in. Adam mentioned, sociology, that's something. Environmental is not only, taking NBI 101 classes, but there's policy, there's regulations, there's what I've learned also within the industry is finance, like money markets and globalism, basically the whole thing. It's something that we're going to all have to kind of communicate on. And so clean energy is a very big realm, and you're most likely going to find something somewhere within this industry that challenges you enough to keep, waking up every day and like wanting to fight this fight. So that's how I see it.
Absolutely. I love that quote, the 100% people doing 1% of the work. I think that's a really good way of framing it. Anybody else have their thoughts on why this is a really important career to pursue?
One of the things that I've really loved about working in this is that you can tie climate to just about anything that people care about. If it's the environment, if it's the economy, if it's about your favorite park, if it's about about loving animals, about caring about your children's future, education, equity, you can sit across from someone who you have basically nothing in common with, and the two of you can probably agree that climate action is necessary and is advantageous to people. And I think that's really remarkable and gives me a lot of purpose in what I do.
I totally agree. All right. So let's open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions they would like to ask our panelists, either directly or just asking all of them as a group, feel free to unmute, or you could even drop your question in the chat and we can take anything from there. Also, if my team has any questions that they would like to ask, feel free to shoot any questions.
I was wondering, if you choose one thing, what's your favorite part about your jobs? For anyone.
I'll jump in here because I'm still new and still like excited, but I go home every day like completely exhausted and completely well, not completely satisfied, but like happy about the work that I've done, generally speaking. Today was a frustrating one, but it's work and problems that I want to continue to do and work through. Like I'm very lucky and privileged to have found something where it's really hard and it's really difficult and I'm learning every single day. But I'm still excited to get up, not necessarily as early as I do, but to get up and go to work the following morning. Like I don't have any doubt that I will continue to learn throughout this whole thing because my job is always evolving, and then sustainability as a concept and as a field is also so rapidly and so continually evolving here. So that's probably my favorite part. I know that was very broad. But...
Yeah, I would say in my work is the opportunity to build relationships, especially as around grassroots policy campaigns, regulatory campaigns, and the like. One of the things that I get to do is just to continually like build new relationships. So in any day, I'm talking to like a solar developer, a regulator, a clergy leader, a member from an indigenous nation, and like, my staff team and stuff. So just, the yeah, the ability to realize how many stakeholders and constituencies are impacted and need to be involved in this, and the opportunity to like create space to like bring those like forces together has been really meaningful and impactful, if not always immediately gratifying.
All right, do we have any other questions? Yep, go for it, Laura.
Hi. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for everyone speaking to us today. I feel like I've written down like every single thing you guys have said because it's been very, very helpful. I was just interested in I am like an engineering undergrad, and I feel like there's so much emphasis on like getting the perfect resume and the perfect cover letter and all this stuff. And I've never actually heard about informational interviews. This is like the first time I've ever even heard of that. So I'd love if you guys could talk about that more. Maybe if there's like specific questions you think are good to ask in informational interviews, or maybe talking more about like finding the right people.
So I've been on both sides of informational interviews. I'm part of the Mentor Match program that was mentioned earlier that Binghamton runs, that has a series of alumni through all sorts of different fields that are interested in meeting with students. But sitting on the other side of the table where you would be, I got some great advice in an informational interview in grad school that was a question for your interviewee that gives you a lot of information and makes you stick out to them, which is what has been your favorite or most impactful thing you've been able to do while you've been in this position. So you get to hear what good is being done. You get to hear why it might have been hard to do, but it got done anyway. And on a more meta psychological level, if it's that person will have a really good association with you because they're thinking about the favorite thing they've ever done at their job and you at the same time. So I've used that ever since, and it's usually really insightful and pretty simple in one question.
I'm gonna pop in here real quick. One question in informational interviews, and then also if you're in like a job interview, asking what you wish you knew before you started your current role is a super, super good question. First of all, it makes people think, and then also, you get to have a little bit of insight on, maybe they'll talk about the job itself, or maybe they'll talk about a class they took or a skill that they needed or something that's super important. But I think that's one that could be really helpful in either setting.
Totally. Sorry, Kiana, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I think you also asked Laura how to set that kind of up, like finding the right person. You can use LinkedIn. I've seen before people say like find the job and then find the person whose role you want to be in the future, and then figure out a way to kind of communicate with them, or someone who works with them or under them, and then get that information. Maybe saying like, don't say you worship them, obviously, but like they have that role that you want. And if you can ask them like how, their kind of linear way of how, like you're doing with us right now, that might kind of lead you to exactly where they are. And that'll be great too. And then find them on, through LinkedIn or something like that.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing, because I kind of alluded to this, and what was helpful in my work is someone at the time encouraged me for informational interviews is to like, and this depends, right? If it's like a specific person at an organization that is hiring versus just like, oh, I want to learn more about your field, that their encouragement was like to get that person's professional Rolodex. So the idea being that you want to follow up with them and try as best as you can, and playfully as feels right for you, get as many recommendations for further contact that they are willing to make for you. To say, hey, I just had this great lunch with this, with Laura, who's really interested in engineering, seems very excited, and I thought both of you should like meet. So it's like how many handoffs that they can do, or again, you're just meeting more people, establishing more relationships, and in some ways getting that person like to be invested in you by like following through on something, which I think even just like psychically does something. So to the degree that you're able to like build off of people's relationships to get to know more people and just be like create a bigger web and have your name kind of like shared in similar spaces.
Thank you so much for that insight, guys. I think that you touched on really, really good points for informational interviewing, and I liked the questions that you had mentioned. So that's super helpful. Thank you for asking the question, Laura. And there was a question in chat, which is, any tips for networking specifically on LinkedIn? Is anyone a networking guru?
I would say I've found that this was mentioned earlier, following a number of companies or organizations or nonprofits that are in the sector will point you towards a lot of really smart professionals in that space. Listening to them, well, I guess it's the knock-on effect of being up to date on what's going on will inevitably have experts tagged in different posts, authors of different pieces. So that's one way. I would say the other way, and you're well on your way here, is tapping into the Binghamton network has been massive for me. I get recommended new people all the time on LinkedIn who are in the space, who went to Binghamton, who haven't met yet, who you have that kind of warm handoff to say, hey, I went to Binghamton too, but I'd love to chat with you sometime about what you do in the space. So tapping into that network, and as Ryan said, getting into their Rolodex is huge, because it is always better to have your name known when you're going into these spaces, like both Kiana and Ellie said, like being not just a name on a page after all that networking is a big deal.
Yeah, I definitely mention, I go, hello, fellow Bearcat. Like, I will always say that if I seen that we went to Binghamton at the same time, or they went to Binghamton, 30 years prior to me. Like, I will always say, hi, Bearcat, and just wondering you have blah, 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 blah. I'd love to spend and then ask for, be very direct and distinct on giving a time and place instead of just being very general. I think if you kind of want to go in with knowing either if you want face-to-face or a call or an email of some sort, like being very specific with details and how you want those details. Like, do you have 20 minutes on Wednesday at 6 p.m.? Is that a good time for you? It kind of forces people to be like, okay, well, let me look at my calendar, instead of being like, I don't know this person, so that's one of those things on LinkedIn as well. And then just keep going through people's page. Like, we all know what Instagram is here. Kind of going through that wormhole of or YouTube, let me say, YouTube videos where one video leads you to another. Look at people's pages, who they know, and just keep going through. And you might just find out that this person has a role or had a role that something is interested in you, and then make that connection the way that I've been saying, like through the chat or just following them and seeing their posts.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time today. I'm going to give one last little, let's see. All right. So if you would like to stay in contact with Nest, or if you want to connect with any of our panelists, I'm sure you could drop some of your contact info that you're comfortable sharing into the chat. I also saw someone had mentioned wanting to grow their network today. So if anyone wants to throw their LinkedIn into the chat, we could all kind of bounce off each other and network a little bit today. But we have our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter for the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow. We also have our website if you want to check out any of our programs or the internship. So I hope that everyone enjoyed this tonight. If there's any final words from my team members, I would love to hear them. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, everybody.
You guys knocked it out of the park. This is great. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.
I'm taking a second to get my LinkedIn in the chat.
Absolutely. Take your time.
But fair warning, it's
Yes, everyone can also